Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for Ted Lasso Season 3. Well, if seeing is believing, then I believe we've been seen. Hey there, my name is Nate, and this is our spoiler-free review for Season 3, Episodes 1 to 4 of the AppleTV original series, Ted Lasso. Huge thanks to our friends at Apple for giving us the opportunity to watch these episodes early for review and just making our days brighter in general with this show, honestly. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, games, toys, and collectibles, and all things geek-centric. Now, I'm stoked to get into this one, but just before we do, I do want to let you know that if you are like us and you love the world of Star Wars, we currently have 2 watch clubs going on right now where we break down episodes weekly, giving our thoughts and theories along the way. One for Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 2, which is wrapping up next week, as well as our ongoing watch club for The Mandalorian Season 3, with new episodes out on Fridays. So go check those out, go enjoy. But in the words of Coach Lasso himself, onward, forward. So, the crew joining me for this review, my team, my fellow football fanatics. We've got the jolly jabber who's ingesting some Jaffa cakes. He's Justin the Jelly Jam Lawrence.
Yo, how's it going?
You had a Jaffa cake before, Justin?
No, but heaven knows I've tried. So, you know.
You've really? How does that mean? Sound like you've tried that.
I don't even know.
I love it. Listen, with his hair as illustrious as Danny Rojas, we've got the daring, dive-kicking, defense-doubting Darcy, the Diamond Dog Hudson.
Football is life. Football
is life, dude. Oh my gosh. Got the Diamond Dog himself. But listen, lastly, but certainly not leastly, as fashionable as Keeley, but just as fierce as Rebecca, we've got the magnificent magistrate of the match, who's always making moves. She's Megan, the midfield clearing Clara.
Hello. That couldn't have been more complimentary. Thank you. Keely and Rebecca are 2 women I definitely look up to.
Absolutely. Do you know, like, midfield clearing? I wrote that. I don't know what it means.
I know nothing about football.
Nothing, but you don't have to with this show, and that's one of the most beautiful parts about it. We can all learn together. But how are y'all doing? So happy to have Ted back in our lives. Before we dive into this review, I'm gonna get all like sappy a little bit, and we're gonna get a little deep here. This is season 3, potentially. They keep going back and forth, but potentially the final season of this show. I wanted to ask each of you, what does Ted Lasso mean to you? And Megan, we'll have you kick us off.
Sure.
Kick us off. Yeah.
There may be a tear or two. This show means more than I ever thought a TV show could. Understanding how to portray mental health issues like anxiety, depression, and OCD makes this show untouchable. Like no other what would be a sitcom has done this before and done it so well. This show provides its viewers with compassion, heart, and almost a little nudge to look within and maybe change your perspective when you're entering a situation that might be uncomfortable or negative. I often get taken aback by the way this show prepares you for a storyline common to drama series, but then turns that thought on its head and gives us that Ted Lasso buzzword, hope. It takes a scenario that you think it's going to happen in a certain way because that's what always happens in TV shows, and then it doesn't happen that way, and people are kind and loving and hopeful and generous, and it's amazing. It deals with social, political, and generational issues with grounded understanding and the absolute perfect amount of humor so that it still stays humble and relatable. This show makes me feel anything and everything all at once. And I know that nobody on that movie worked in the show, but it just like gives me chills to think about how incredible this show is. And I don't want it to end, but I also want it to end on the right note. So if they think that's this season, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that for sure. Justin, how about yourself?
Well, I think that's the exact sentiments that we probably all feel, in that, you know, it is a show that on the surface, it's about a soccer team that's finding their way, or a football team that's finding their way, and a coach that is a fish out of water, and what that experience looks like. But underneath it is just so many different layers that deal with mental health and how do you cope with that, and having a support system, and what does that support system look like. And I think that's like beautifully captured in the metaphor of the football team and the behind the scenes of the team. And there's all these certain archetypal characters that you get with these sort of sports dramedies. And to Meg's point, it's all kind of flipped on its head. Everyone is very vulnerable. Everyone's very honest. Moments that you think, like you said, it's going to play out the way that it typically would play out, it surprises you, and it's an absolute delight. It has such a way with making you smile and cry all at the same time, but feeling good about it. Because I say, like, this is pretty much the definition of feel-good television. This show has redefined that, and by not just making it just a comedy, but by layering in the real life issues that we all face and the sensibilities of how we deal with that. You know, like just yesterday, cast appeared at the White House during the daily press conference to talk about mental health. And I think that's just a testament to how the show is reaching beyond just their series to really talk about the core theme of this sports show, which is mental health and what that looks like. Yeah, I think that the show will be always celebrated for being probably the show that puts a smile on your face, but like Meg says, makes you think at the same time about your own well-being, you know, about your own health, and you know who's part of your support system. And there's just so much that it feeds into. It's so much more than just a comedy sports show. So I think that was the surprise for me after season 1, and it continues to surprise me as we go through.
Absolutely. Yeah. Darcy.
I mean, this show is unique, at least to my family, in the sense that literally all of us are watching it, with the exception of my brother Kelly, because he refuses to watch because we told him to watch it too many times, and now it's this whole thing now.
It's too cool.
But I watch it with my parents, and there's one thing, I usually watch a lot of shows with my mom, but my dad, it takes a lot to get him invested in a show like he's invested in Ted Lasso, and I think a lot of it comes down to is how human the characters all are. You're talking about how they're vulnerable, and they're opening up and showing their weaknesses and making mistakes, and that's what humans do. And the fact that my dad liked the show enough to go and recommend it to my grandparents, now they're watching it, and my aunt and uncle and my cousins, like, this doesn't happen a lot where we're talking about, you know, a show at a family gathering, but whenever Ted Lasso finishes up, the next gathering, you know, we're going to be talking about the last season and how it made us laugh and cry at the same time, and how it again, everything is so human about the characters. You can't help but root for them and want them to do well and succeed. So yeah, this show is incredible, and I love it so much.
Yeah. I definitely feel that with the family thing. I think much like moments with Animal Crossing, this show came into our lives at a time when we needed it most, and when we needed these characters most. And I think, you know, during those lockdown moments, those really difficult moments where people are feeling really lonely, I think, to me, that will always be the greatest gift this series has given me, is kind of getting me through some of those moments during, you know, in 2020. And I remember watching it at times. You know, they'd swear or they'd do things that I normally wouldn't want to watch with my parents or with Darcy's grandparents. But it's such a testament to the writing that it, you know, everyone loves this show. Everyone looks past maybe content that they wouldn't normally watch because the outcome is so honest. It's so beautiful, and there's so many lessons in the show, whether it be the message of continuing, you know, continuing on in the face of uncertainty, or the message of staying in touch with your friends and family, checking in on them, and letting them know that you're there to listen to them when they need it, or just simply believe. There's just so many incredible messages and lessons that we get through these characters and through their stories. And the show is damn funny. Like, the show is damn funny. And that's another aspect to it that's just like, it's so incredible that we can just get all of that. And And yeah, to see them at the White House press briefing, Justin, as you called out, like it's wonderful. It's great to see them, getting that message out into the real world, going beyond just the writing of this show, and just to see Jason and the cast up there was awesome. So cool. But let me get to the synopsis for this show, as if you don't already know. From the creators and producers, Brendan Hunt, Joe Kelly, and Bill Lawrence, comes Ted Lasso, now in its third season, and in the wake of Nate's contentious departure from Richmond, Roy Kent steps up as assistant coach alongside Coach Beard. Meanwhile, while Ted deals with pressures at work, he continues to wrestle with his own personal issues back home. Rebecca is focused on defeating Rupert, and Keely navigates being the boss of her own PR agency. Things seem to be falling apart both on and off the pitch, but Team Lasso is set to give it their best shot anyways. The show stars Jason Sudeikis, Brendan Hunt, Hannah Waddingham, Juno Temple, Jeremy Swift, Nick Mohammed, Sarah Niles, Brett Goldstein, Cristo Fernandez, Toheeb Jimo, Phil Dunster, Kola Bocchini, James Lance, and Anthony Head, amongst many more incredibly talented cast and crew. The show is streaming right now with its first 2 episodes already out on Apple TV Plus, with new episodes releasing weekly every Wednesday. Now, as I mentioned at the top, we are only discussing, without spoilers, the first 4 episodes of the season. That's all we've seen. And I can't wait to see more. But hopefully this conversation, if you're listening to this, will give you a little insight as to where we might be going this season, again, without really spoiling anything. So let's start off with what we've been enjoying so far. I think, Ted Lasso's back. These characters feel like they've grown so much. And I love that they're making decisions that, Meg, like you pointed out, we're getting these surprises. They're these surprising things that we don't expect these characters to necessarily do, but it also feels entirely earned. And I think that's really refreshing to have a comedy series where we can get some really goofy and silly moments that are hilarious but never come off as inauthentic or campy. And at no point in time in watching these first 4 episodes did I ever feel like a character would do or say something they normally wouldn't say. And I think that for a show, especially a comedy series, in its 3rd season, and maybe even nearing the end of this series, normally you would get some drastic changes that don't always feel natural in a lot of shows at this point, but it still really does for these characters, and I absolutely love that about this show.
Well, and then you also start to get to a point with a show when it's already had 2 full seasons and both were fantastic. You go into a 3rd and you're thinking there's no way they're going to top what they did in the last 2 seasons, or there's no way it's going to be at the same standard. And then it is, and it's so amazing. And like you were saying, the surprises that come along, it's like expected that it's not going to be what normal TV shows do, but then it's still surprising to see. So I love that it constantly bounces back and forth from hilarious and also heartfelt and stays grounded, and the jokes don't come at the expense of the drama or the intense moments that feel real.
Yeah.
They just make it even more relatable for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think the first 4 episodes definitely do set up a precedence for an end. There's a sense of confidence in the air in terms of the performances that we're getting from the entire cast in these 4 episodes that feels, like you said, Nate, earned after 2 seasons of spending time with them and understanding their dynamics and how they work together and each character on their own. That this just feels so refreshing, as you said. It's like wholesome to be coming back to something that we know and we're familiar with. There's a lot of pressure on them as a team, and we're seeing them cope with that together. And just even in the first episode, the idea of how lessons are being taught and the lesson that is being taught is so simple, but it's obviously done in a very elaborate way. And that to me is like true Ted Lasso manner. And the lesson is so simple, but the story and the adventure that goes with that lesson is so enjoyable, and it puts a smile on your face at the end of every episode. And it just to see where everyone is after the end of season 2, like Roy and Keeley are no longer together. What does that look like, right? The team has lost Nate. We're seeing them cope with that, right? We're seeing the coaching team cope with that as well, right? Like there's an interesting sense of drama that needs to unfold, but it's doing it in these 4 episodes very like nice and slow, so that we can kind of, it's digestible and it builds upon itself to get to bigger things. So I'm definitely excited after the 4 episodes to see what's going to happen next for Richmond. So yeah.
Well, and I just really quickly to touch on the character growth that we mentioned earlier and the lesson in episode 1. I won't spoil necessarily what the lesson is, but there's a moment with Jamie that I just absolutely adored, where the team starts getting heated and upset about something, and Ted's, he sees this from across the office, and he goes, okay, I got to get out there and resolve this. And you just see Jamie saying some of the most Ted Lasso shit, and it works so well to just show how much Ted has influenced the team, and especially Jamie, of all characters, being the one. His growth is so phenomenal. And the idea of sort of, normally we would see in season 1, these lessons would take an entire episode to get to, whereas this feels like it happens so quickly, which does show how much more Jamie trusts Ted to kind of be that person that he needs to be emulating when it comes to leadership. And I love it so much.
I think it's also really cool that there's characters that are noticing each other's growth as well, and they're noticing growth within themselves, which is also a really amazing concept.
What the series has done so well is, in the first season, it kind of establishes a little bit of that internal conflict that some of these characters are dealing with, especially Ted. And, that manifests itself in a real way, and dealing with talking about mental health. And then, season 2 is the exploration of that, getting the help and making the commitment to be aware of it and fix it. And I think while Ted's going through that, the whole team is going through that personally in different ways with their own identity. So it's just such a great mirroring between our main character and the team, that these situations find a way of mixing and melding, that there's constantly parallels between them. So here in this 3rd season, it's really nice to see an air of comfortability with all of these characters. Like you pointed out, Nate, like to hear Jamie give the Ted Lasso advice to a team just goes to show how much growth Jamie has had and how much of an influence obviously Ted's been on him, but really Jamie thinking about how much of a cocky prick he was in the first season, right? And how he's a team player now. He's a team player, right? Where he thought he was the team, he's now part of a team. So that to me was a great little moment that gives validation as to how far we've come with a character like Jamie Tart.
I mean, I think the coolest thing about this show is that as the seasons go on, we're getting a closer look at more of the players' lives. Where like the first season we were focused more on Roy and Jamie's relationship within the team, and maybe a bit of Sam, and then that second season we really explored Sam's dynamic and a bit of Danny, and now we're going further and getting even more. Like we're getting some of the goalie's story, we're getting some of like Colin's story. All the characters are having a chance to shine now, and this cast. From they haven't recast anyone yet, they're all knocking it out of the ballpark. They are incredible actors, and they bring so much heart to these characters that you can't help but root for them because you want them to succeed. So it's, again, the cast is incredible.
Every character matters in this series.
Yeah.
From Ted Lasso to the team, to the coaching team, to the executives, to May at the bar with those 3 dudes,
the fans.
Baz, Paul, and I think Jeremy is the other guy's name. Their story in itself, their commitment to the team, they're on the outside, obviously, of the larger story that we're experiencing, but they still matter, right? Like they had that great episode last season with Coach Beard that I absolutely loved, and it was a bottleneck. It was definitely a bottleneck out there episode, but it shows the personality of Coach Beard, right? Like it gave him that time for his character to be shown, because he's kind of seen as an oddball. So I totally agree. I think every character in this show matters. There's no secondary characters. There's no like lesser characters. Everyone serves a purpose to the bigger story of Ted Lasso.
Well, and I think like last season where we did get to see more of Coach Beard, we got to see more stuff with Sam. This season, it looks like we might be getting a little more from Billy Harris's Colin Hughes character, which I'm so looking forward to see where his story goes. I can't wait to cry all over it. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely incredible. But I also, let's talk about these performances a little more in depth here. Obviously, outstanding performances as always. For me, the standouts, I think, so far in these 4 episodes, of course, Jason Sudeikis, but I also want to shout out Hannah Waddingham. I think, I'll let you guys
She's
take
amazing.
all the flowers that you want to give to Jason, but I wanted to shout out Hannah here because I think she's killing it. I think Rebecca's obsession with wanting nothing more than to beat Rupert. And there's so many moments in these first 4 episodes where I was going back and forth between rooting for her behavior as like a hell yeah, like let's freaking destroy Rupert kind of feeling. And then I was also kind of wanting so badly for her to push past it and let go in moments. And I think that has so much to do with these incredible like moments with the faces that Hannah is making. You see it in her eyes. You see whether you're seeing fear or fire in those eyes, she's so emotive.
Yeah.
She's so
emotive,
phenomenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Hannah Waddingham. She has confidence written all over her. She is strong, powerful, she's poised, she's very thoughtful. But I think what's nice is that we're seeing maybe a little bit of the unhinging of that. And we're seeing that kind of manifest itself. I love Brett Goldstein's Roy, especially now having seen Brett Goldstein more outside of his character of Roy. It is such a difference between who he is as a person and who Roy is. And I think that, again, to see his growth, to see his development, to see how he's a little more accepting of things and more open to maybe some changes and to hearing people's thoughts. I think that's just so well done. And with that, I think, Phil Dunster's Jamie Tart, absolutely incredible acting. Again, just he's getting more comfortable with where his character is. You can actually, I feel like I can physically see a difference between the way he carried himself in season 1 to how he's carrying himself here. And that's not just being more funny and comedic. That's just, I think, being a little bit more lax. I think he walked into the locker room in the first season with a tight ass. He's like, I'm here to fucking be the team and win the team, right? And now he's a little more loosey goosey and stuff like that. So it's just it's had effect on him. Also, just last one, there's everyone's great, but Juno Temple as Keely. Again, given in this season, these 4 episodes, we can see that she's coping with something. She's trying to find her place. She's obviously inspired by Rebecca and what Rebecca can, symbolizes in her life and what she is. And I think she's trying to do that, but she knows that she's not Rebecca. And we see that sort of unfold in this new journey with this business that she started. And it's just, again, you talk about Hannah Waddingham, how she acts with her eyes. You see Juno just kind of be startled by things.
Sometimes leaving imprints with her eyes. Yeah, absolutely.
But when she's confronted by one of her executives and she's intimidated, and it's not like she's saying anything. It's just her demeanor and her body language suddenly just changes. Yeah, it just dropped. It wasn't that confident Keely that we knew from the other seasons. So it's really fun. It's really interesting to see such a drastic difference between some of these characters. I could go on, but I will throw it. I'll throw it to you guys because I'm sure there's more people that you want to talk about.
Well, I just want to talk on the end of Juno's performance. To see Keely, she's such a badass in the first 2 seasons, and that's why she was able to go into this position of owning her own business. But there's so much more to that she didn't know about going in. So she's almost this she's this shy, nervous, sort of timid person when she's at work, because she's like, how come everybody's not having fun? How come everybody's not gonna be like me? But she has to work on that and figure out how to become a boss and how to be her version of a boss, which I think is my favorite part of the journey she's going to go on in this season, because she's not going to be Hannah Waddingham's Rebecca. She's going to be Keely Jones, and she's going to keep her heart. She's not a hard ass. That's just not who she is. So I think it's going to be really cool to watch her go through that evolution this season.
I definitely see her going to Ted for a lot of advice in terms of organizing a team or bringing a team together. So looking forward to those interactions and that mentorship starting. But yeah, just again, you've talked about how all these characters are knocking it out of the park. What I thought is cool is that returning people who are having more of a story, like Trent Krim.
Yes.
James Lance, is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. He is awesome. I can't wait to tell like his story, the way that they started off in these first 4 episodes. I love the guy even more than I already did, and I can't wait to see what story he's going to tell now that he's not working for the Independent. So it's they set up for all these storylines, like you said, Justin, where no character is unimportant. You're invested in everyone's story, and you want to see how it ends for each of them because they're all so human, and I love it.
But I think it's interesting too because with Trent Krim, this was a character that I know for myself, and I can't speak for you, but I'm sure like for a lot of people, didn't gel right away, was very written, on purpose as sort of a rough kind of untrustworthy character to kind of get along with. But now, like after the episode 1 ended, and I was like, oh, are we not going to get any? Like I was like, where's Trent? Where'd Trent go? And so the fact that we are getting him more as a series regular is so it makes me so happy. And even just having that feeling just reminded me that you know what, we can get these wild card characters, but by the end of one season with them, they can be a character that we hope we'll get more of. I think there's a wild card character. I won't mention their name just yet, but there's maybe 1 or 2 wild card characters actually by the end of these 4 episodes that I'm kind of like, I don't know if by the end of the season I'm going to want them to succeed or to fail or to become more human, if you will, in some ways. But I think it's really intriguing, and I really, I think I trust the writing team on this series to do the right thing with those characters. Because I think by the end of this season and by the end of the series, I think the only character, and I mean, shout out to him for absolutely killing it with his performance, but I think the only character that we won't really care about or will be kind of happy if he's not doing okay is Rupert. I think we're all pretty aligned with Rebecca on that one.
His character actually I feel like is the most generic.
As like a villain?
The most generic as a villain and just the most generic in terms of like what he has going on.
And he has one purpose.
Exactly. And there's some revelations through these 4 episodes that make it kind of interesting. But again, it just falls into he's the typical overconfident billionaire who thinks he knows everything. Opposite of him is obviously Rebecca. And she's obviously dealing with a confidence issue and is having struggles. And, just as we've been talking about these characters, I just love that we've honed in on the theme through these 4 episodes. There is a parallel here of dealing with confidence, finding confidence and trusting yourself and all the variations of what that might look like in regards to how they have to cope with it, how they have to handle it. I am going to just shout out though Nick Mohammed as Nate. I think from where he started and where he is now has everything to do with a lack of confidence and a lack of belief in himself. But Nick Mohammed, he can act. He is not just a comedy guy. He's emotional. There's a moment in here, and it's definitely a testament to editing and him acting and that mashup of the two. But just the snap. There's just a single moment where it just snaps, and he's in this bully mode. And it's interesting to see how he wavers between right and wrong. Rupert, obviously, as we saw at the end of last season, is the catalyst of that. And that really does manifest itself in these 4 episodes. They make it quite clear, that he is, Nate is Rupert's pet, if you will. And he's fueling him with confidence. And he's giving him all of it, even if it's false confidence. It's not real confidence, right? It's made up. So again, tying back to, I think, a core theme of what this season 3 will probably deal with, or at least what these first 4 episodes are really handling. So yeah, he's absolutely fantastic.
Well, and we saw Nate back in season 2 have that moment where he was staring at himself in the mirror and like talking so much crap about himself, and then he like spit in his own face and bringing that essence of Nate back into this season, but in a different light, because now he doesn't have the support of Richmond or Ted or the good people, Keeley, like the good people around him that care about him. He doesn't have that support anymore, or at least he's separated himself from that. So
he's isolated.
And watching him go through how he's bullied himself in the past and continues to do so because there's so much pressure on him, and there's this fear put into him from Rupert, whether on purpose or not. It's really interesting. And I thought we had lost Nate at the last season. or the season finale of season 2, I was like, oh no, he's changed. He's becoming this horrible person and doing these horrible things. But the Nate we all know and love is still in there. He just needs that love and support that he had on Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really intriguing to see where his story goes. Just on the topic of performances, I'll just get back to Jason. I think he's so good as Ted Lasso. Like it's just the
I was going to mention it.
It's you know what I mean. You don't even
Ted Lasso. Even when he did that presidential
he
thing,
was
yesterday,
Ted Lasso.
He was Jason Sudeikis, but he was still Ted Lasso.
He was
you
Ted
can't
Lasso.
help. Yeah, exactly.
He's so charming. I think he seems, the character seems so honest with himself, and I think it's when we get to see those moments where he's not saying something that's on his mind. Right, Coach Beard has to almost pull that out of him. Those are the moments where I think Jason Sudeikis is putting on a really phenomenal performance, a phenomenal dramatic performance from this guy that I remember from SNL. Like it's just phenomenal to get this level of character, and he's so freaking good. I want to shout out the music. I think Tom Howe is doing a really phenomenal job of complementing the moments and these performances. Whether it's highlighting Ted's anxiety, adding to the descent of Nate, or giving great light music as these characters just connect, as Keely and Rebecca have their girl time. It's awesome just to sort of continue to hear that Ted Lasso sound. Like Tom very much has developed a Ted Lasso sound that is authentic, just like the characters themselves.
I think that's Tom Howe's sound. I think that you can hear that in Shrinking as well. There's the right amount. It's a little different, but it does have that sparkle. It has that charm to it. It has that like puts a smile on your face kind of as you watch the episode. And dramatic moments aren't intensified with the music. It's implemented on a more emotional level. Everything is meant to hit you emotionally. And Tom Howe and what he's done with both of those series, I think, established his signature sound. The music in itself, like you said, is it's its own thing. It's its own character.
Well, and I think there's so many things that in my mind, and we talked about this during the spoiler-free review for Shrinking, but there's so many things in my mind that make me feel like those are the same universes. So, like,
for sure.
When I talk about the Ted Lasso sound, and yeah, you're right, it's the Tom Howe sound, but
it's the Tom Howe sound. Yeah,
it means that whatever in my mind, whatever he works on is part of the Ted Lasso cinematic universe.
That's why I was saying in our spoiler-free, like, it spiritually feels like it's a spin-off of Ted Lasso because it has the same themes.
Yeah,
it's dealing with it on a whole other level, but it is very real and grounded. And the music then again adding that layer. So to have these shows kind of playing back to back, well, with Shrinking closing out later this week, it's kind of nice. I'm hoping Bill Lawrence will continue to build out this Ted Lasso universe, if you will.
Yeah, very much so.
Well, if Brett Goldstein's involved in the writing, then I trust it because, again, he's written some of the episodes of the first four and some of the last season too, and he really understands the characters and the stories they're telling are all, again, very engaging, and you want to see how they play out. And I feel like a lot of that is the actors understanding the writing, and then again the writers understanding where these characters are going. So it all comes together so well, and you can really see it in this season. And
I think these characters, from a standpoint of, again, what you might have to look forward to, I think there's a lot, and normally at the end of these reviews, we'd give a score, we'd give a final rating, but I kind of wanted to wrap up instead with, maybe what's one thing, again, without kind of getting into spoilers, but what's one thing that you're most excited about for the rest of this season? And I'm going to have Darcy actually. Darcy, if you want to do a corner kick and kick us off here.
Sure thing. I mean, I already mentioned it earlier, but Trent Crimm's storyline this season has me most engaged, basically, because, again, the fact that
you look the most like him, is that why?
Yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know. I never thought of that, but I don't know. I like the idea of his character going from this jaded sports writer who only sees the worst in people, and then hanging out with the Lasso team and getting sucked into their shenanigans and how that's going to affect
Understanding,
his writing and stuff like that. Like, I can't wait to see how that character's arc plays out. So Trent Krim is me most excited for the rest of the season.
He falls in love with the sport again because of Ted Lasso, right? Like the jaded sports writer. I love that. That's a great little caveat.
Yeah. Justin.
Well, I honestly think that this is the final season, and it's set up in a way that feels like that. I think it was Jason Sudeikis that went on the record of saying that season 2 was the Empire Strikes Back of the story, and he's referred to this final season as the final arc in the character of Ted Lasso, similar to A Return of the Jedi. And it does feel like that. These first 4 episodes kind of are leaning into that. We were talking about it before, but the relationship between Rupert and Nathan or Nate the Great, it does have an Emperor Darth Vader vibe, and I think Nate is definitely Darth Vader, who's wavering between good and bad, and whenever he gets too close to trying to be good, I think Rupert is the Emperor that's there to pull him back in. And as Star Wars fans, we know that Return of the Jedi, as much as it is the completion of Luke Skywalker's story, it is a story of redemption for Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader. He's the Wonder Kid for a specific reason, because I think he is going to make a comeback to Richmond, and he's going to be reunited with his team, because his story amongst all the other ones, all the other characters that we've seen, he's the one that is in sort of a regression mode. He's not dealing with his problems. He's not opening about it. He's not talking about it. He doesn't have a support system. So I think he's the final piece for the team to be a team, and getting him to open up and understanding the sort of pressures that he has. So I'd like to see Nate come back to Richmond before the season's out to help hopefully Richmond win. That's another thing that I'd like to see. 2 seasons where they haven't won. They've gotten close, but they haven't, and that was interesting even in season 1 when you don't have your team win. So it'd be nice now here as the Return of the Jedi of this trilogy, we see them win.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to get to see a scene. Rupert's sitting in the stands with Nate. They're watching a game of a different team, and he's going to turn to him and he's going to be, did you ever hear of the tragedy
about the great
of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Coach. It'd be Coach Plagueis
Coach
the Wise.
Plagueis the Wise.
You ever hear the story? Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to jump in if it's okay, Meg, because I think I'm right there with Justin. For reasons beyond just having a great name, I'm most excited to see what happens with Nate. I think, Rupert, I think it's great that Rupert can be this emperor-like character, and we can all collectively feel nothing but disdain for him. But the fact that there's still parts of me feeling for what Nate is going through just shows how wonderfully his character is written, right? And yeah, Justin, I hope he does come back. I hope he's back, and I hope he's better for it. And I just want everyone except for Rupert to be okay. I do want Nate to stop spitting, though, because it's really gross. And I understand that it's a coping mechanism. I understand that it's a thing that he's working through, but I just hope he never has to do that again. But no, I definitely am really intrigued to see kind of what happens with him. And then, I think the only other major sort of interesting thing is we are getting a really intriguing relationship. It's always been an intriguing relationship, but we're going to be seeing maybe a little bit more between Jamie and Roy, and I'm very intrigued to see kind of what comes of it, because I think it's going to be really integral to this maybe final season. But Megan, what are you most excited about for this 3rd season of Ted Lasso?
There were moments where I connected so intensely, and not because I'm going through any of the same stuff that Ted is going through at all, but because he suffers with such intense anxiety, and I know what that feels like. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's just like such a good show. Sorry.
That's okay.
No worries. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It means something to you. At the end of the day, I think that's what this show is meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's meant to connect with people on that level that can allow them to really look inside of themselves and understand that, because maybe in some ways this helps with the idea of how to go about recognizing moments in your own life that run parallel. So I think it's actually really great that you have such an emotional response to it, right? It wouldn't be good television, and that's the feel-good part. You're looking at your life through this show, and that's the feel-good moment of it, right? So
yeah, and there's a specific moment that I obviously won't spoil, but I'm a huge person on communication, and Ted says something along the lines of, I know maybe this isn't right to communicate with you, but I also don't think it's right to bottle it up. And it's so awesome to see that happen, and the growth, like we were talking about before, seeing him change and seeing him realize and seeing how therapy is helping him and how the people around him are helping him. And that's so incredible. So I'm really excited to see Ted get his groove back. And I'm really excited just to watch this entire team come together and continue to inspire us all. And on a less emotional note, I'm really excited for more pop culture references that I understand, because there were a bunch of them in these 4 episodes that I really appreciated as a millennial, as someone born in the 90s. They're referring to things that happened in the early 2000s that these guys playing football, these teammates, all would understand those references, because that's the generation that they're from. So I appreciate that part of it, and I'm really excited for more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think there's still acknowledgement, though, of younger generations.
Of course,
I can't remember who says it, but there's a character that Ted responds to in episode 1 of just being like, listen, your generation is straight and to the point, and that's something I appreciate about it. And it's fantastic to sort of see them acknowledging that. But, Megan, don't worry about crying. Like Keely says, crying is like an orgasm for the soul. So made it a little awkward there, but hopefully with a little bit of laughs as well. But that is it for, I really enjoyed this. So that was it for this spoiler-free review for Ted Lasso Season 3, Episodes 1 to 4. Spoiler-free discussion, I guess. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this series or any of the movies or shows we cover, well, I'm going to do a scorpion kick and pass the ball over to Justin so he can let you know how you can reach us.
Well, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or if that feels like you're traveling into a sewer, well, you can reach us on Instagram at wearegeekcentric, or on Twitter at geekcentricyt. I flipped them there. I did the flip.
I liked
hope
it.
That's okay.
I liked it.
Okay.
Just don't
I also
flip.
really love that you're not getting us to give a score for this show, because nobody in this show judges other people. So that
There
makes
you
me really
go.
happy.
And I mean, let's be honest.
No, we'll definitely do something at the end, though. I think we'll be coming back
Sure.
to this show, and we'll be giving
Spoilers,
it
though, it'll be
a
5s
rating.
out of 5s, I'm pretty sure.
Already,
at this
I'm
point.
pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's definitely, you're not gonna be slipping into a pile of poop, as Jamie says. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other great episodes covering the latest in movies, TV shows, and games, including our spoiler-free review for the Apple TV Plus original series Shrinking, which, again, if you haven't already just started watching that show,
Just watch it.
Watch
It's
it.
so
Come
good.
on. Like,
so
dude,
good. If
I'm
you-
going to tell you, Shrinking, these two shows pair together like a fine wine, which doesn't have to be expensive, like Richard might say. You can afford to watch both these shows,
It's the
I
same
promise.
subscription.
It's the same
It's the same subscription.
Watch it. It's the
You're already
same.
saving money.
Come on. The TLCU, Ted Lasso Cinematic Universe. But listen, if you like other cinematic universes like Star Wars, we also have our interview out now with, our most recent interview, I think, is our interview with Mandalorian director Rick Famuyiwa, as well as Bo-Katan Kryze herself, Katie Sackhoff. So if you're enjoying The Mandalorian and want to check those out, definitely do so on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. And we also have some upcoming interviews with some folks from another Apple TV original series, which we are really stoked to share with you. So, subscribe, click all the things, follow our socials so you can hear all about those. Follow us on TikTok as well. We're woke on TikTok. So And you can follow us there at We Are Geekcentric. Justin's been posting some really great clips and putting some stuff together. So definitely go check all that stuff out. Megan, Darcy, Justin, thank you so much for joining me for this spoiler-free discussion and just honestly, just this lovely discussion of talking about how much we love this incredible show. And as we say, love ya.
Laters.
Bye.
Peace.